using reference angles to evaluate trigonometric functions. Use reference angles to find the exact value of each of the following trigonometric functions. Sine of 135. So, to use a reference angle, I'm going to draw a 135 degree angle. I go past 90 on into the second quadrant. What is my reference angle for 135? Well, I have to say 180 degrees minus 135. If you subtract here, you end up with a 45 degree angle reference angle. Now, we have learned about our special right triangles, okay? Think back to your special right triangles that we learned before. A 45, 45, 90. The two legs are 1. The hypotenuse is square root of 2. This is something that you need to memorize. You need to be very familiar with the 45, 45, 90 triangle and the 30, 60, 90 triangle also. Remember, opposite the 30 is 1, opposite the 60 is the square root of 3, and the hypotenuse is 2 of a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So, using what we know, the two legs are 1, and the hypotenuse is square root of 2, which is your r. Now, you got to think about this quadrant, though. In this quadrant, x is negative, the y is positive, and your hypotenuse is always positive. So, if theta is 135, what is sine of 135? Well, to find sine of 135, you'll use your reference angle of 45. So, sine is y over r. Okay, sine of 135 degrees is y over r. Well, y is 1 and r is square root of 2. But don't leave me the square root of 2. Multiply numerator and denominator. You can't leave me a radical in the denominator. So I end up with square root of 2 over square root of 2 times square root of 2 gives you square root of 4, which is 2. Therefore, since the reference angle of sine of 45 degrees is square root of 2 over 2, then the sine of 135 is square root of 2 over 2. Okay? All right. So, let's continue on with the next problem. Cosine of 4 pi over 3. Now again, you can work it in terms of radians or you can change it to degrees. If you change it to degrees, you're looking at 4 pi over 3 times 180 over pi. The pi's would cancel. 4 times 180 divided by 3. If you do that on your calculator, you get 240 degrees. So, in looking at cosine 240 degrees, we have to draw the reference angle. So, we're going to be in the third quadrant. We go all the way to 180 and come on down and let's determine our reference angle. Okay? Now, to find the reference angle here, we must subtract 240 minus 180. Okay? You subtract 240 minus 180. So when you do, you get 0. We get a 60 degree reference angle. Okay? Now let's go back. Think about the 60, 30, 90 triangle. Opposite the 60 is the square root of 3. Okay? So using that thought, opposite the 60 is square root of 3. Well, if this is the 60 degree angle, this is the 30 degree angle. Here's your right angle. All right, go to your reference triangle that we know. What's opposite the 30 degree angle? 1. So opposite my 30 degree angle is 1. The hypotenuse is 2, which is your r. Now think of your signs. In the third quadrant, x is negative. Also in the third quadrant, y is negative. So you have to think about your signs. Okay? Now, so if I'm going to find cosine of 4 pi over 3 using this reference angle, cosine, think about your cosine. Cosine is adjacent over the hypotenuse. That is x over r. So that would be negative 1 over 2. That is your cosine using the reference angle of 60 degrees. So looking at that problem, cosine of 4 pi over 3 would give you negative 1/2. Cosine of 4 pi over 3 is negative 1/2.